Welcome to People I Know Show, a podcast about interesting people, personal growth, and being wrong. I'm your host, Curt Carstensen. On today's episode, I talk personal growth with my brother, Chuck Carstensen. Both he and I have taken a number of steps to improve ourselves and improve our lives in recent years, and we talk about that as well as a few other topics today. There are now a number of places to listen to this program. PeopleIKnowShow.com will lead you to all of them. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, the TuneIn Radio app, on Stitcher, or on Spotify. To follow along with some photos or videos related to each episode of the podcast, go to Facebook.com and search People I Know Show. Remember to like that page. You can also leave comments or reviews on that page. Also, Instagram. I've created a People I Know Show Instagram page that will include photos as well. If you have any questions or comments while you're listening, you can contact me directly by emailing to peopleiknowshow@gmail.com. Episode number 2 of People I Know Show, and today is someone I have known for as long as I've known anyone, my big brother, Chuck Carstensen. Chuck, say hello to the listeners.
Hello, listeners, and I know after we have this interview, we'll have many more listeners.
Well, I hope so, because you're going to promote it to everyone you've ever met, and you have a big Facebook following, so if you don't share it like 5 times, I think he'll be upset at you. Okay, so Chuck is my older brother. Chuck's 6 years older than me. I'm 35.
Do our voices sound alike? What if they think that's you talking and me talking? Do the brothers sound a little bit different?
I think we sound a little bit different. Although, one of the things this wouldn't be happening for probably at least one of 2 reasons if Chuck wasn't my brother. So I think that's a reason why I'm having him on as my second guest on this show. I was a sports broadcaster earlier on in my life and worked in radio for some time. Chuck, why is the reason that I was a sports broadcaster?
Because I think at one point you wanted to be like your big brother, and I was a sports broadcaster before you and got you started. And maybe you wanted to be like somebody else, but I think threw you in the fire one time and said, Curt, you got to go do this game, and you became a sports broadcaster.
I do have an audio tape of the first time I ever broadcasted a game by myself. I was 17 years old. Chuck was the broadcaster and assistant general manager for the Brainerd Mighty Gulls of the Northwoods League, and he sent me to Grand Forks with a bunch of, I suppose those guys are mostly 20, 21, 22, and at that time I was 17, so I felt so out of place, but they were good to me. The broadcast must have been terrible, so I maybe someday I'll find that tape and listen to it again, and perhaps I'll put it on one of these broadcasts just to show how far I've come in 17 years. But I guess the point of that is, if I didn't have some broadcasting skills, I don't know that I would have taken on this venture and been able to handle the audio equipment. Yes, anyone could do this, anyone could learn it, but I came in with a skill set that I think translates pretty well. So that wasn't the only thing that Chuck influenced me to do when I was younger. I like to tell people, and this actually might be true, I didn't make a decision for myself until, sometime after Chuck left home and went off to college, because I did everything that he did. And one thing I hadn't really thought about much is the fact that you let me. Like, I don't know if you're reluctant or mom and dad made you let me do things with you, but you let me be involved in all of our fantasy sports leagues, even though I was just a little kid. Basically, I started when I was about 8 years old and you were 14 with your 10th grade friends. And you let me listen to all of your music, and you'd take me, my first time I went golfing, you took me, and pretty much everything you let me do. So do you remember why you were so nice to me?
Well, you're my brother, and I thought we had the same interests. I don't think I was like dragging you along or forced to take you. I think it was just natural. We did stuff together, even though we're 6 years apart. Okay,
so I guess I don't know if all brothers and sisters get along so well. And I think one thing that may be kind of an unusual thing for us and our sister Michelle is we've always gotten along pretty well, and at this point of our life, we still do. We can talk about this a little bit later, but the two of you have been working together for a number of years now, and that might go on for a very long time, because I don't think as a family we don't have many disputes. So that must go to some part of our growing up and how we were raised. We were raised on a farm, and I think although our experiences growing up are much similar in a lot of ways, I think our farming experience was a bit different. You're the oldest kid, and farm kids really have to work hard, especially the first kid. I think I was the third kid, and I don't know that I had to work nearly as hard as you. Do you ever think about that, how hard you had to work as a kid? I think you had to work way harder than me, basically.
Yes, I don't think about that a lot now as far as how hard I work compared to you, but we could talk about that a little bit. I do know, like, the working hard on a farm is it's helped me a lot in real estate because I outwork most people in real estate. That's why I've built my business and done pretty well, and now have a team. And like you said, Michelle's on the team and been working with me for 4 years. It's in part due to farming. Farming is kind of like what you do in real estate. It's just obviously a different career path. As far as the working hard, I did think about this, even maybe not in regards to this conversation we're having. I'm pretty sure that my parents sold our cows once I was graduating. They're like, okay, Chuck's leaving, so we're selling the cows. That probably wasn't why, but it was my senior year, about to graduate, and then they finally got rid of the cows for a while. It
was, I think, more of a coincidence. We had a really old barn that just wasn't, I don't think it was worth fixing, and it wasn't that sustainable. So they got out of dairy right as I was getting into the age where I would have had to work really hard. And then there was just less work to do for a few years. They got back into it later, but by then I had other things going on. So they didn't make me work as hard, which I don't know. I think it does help tell the story of how our lives maybe went a different path for a little while, and maybe now are becoming more similar, or maybe they're not similar at all. But I had a different farm kid upbringing. Yes, mom kind of babied me. I was a baby, and because there just wasn't as much to do, I had it a bit easier. And as this
all comes out now.
Yeah. I think so. You were gone a lot. I still had to work. It isn't like I never did anything. I just know that you had. So here's an example for those people that have some farming knowledge. Those people that don't, this might not make as much sense, but it's very common on a farm. You bale hay, and someone's on the wagon getting the bales. As they come through the baler, they come pretty quickly, and they weigh 50 pounds a piece, maybe more.
Depends on the hay, but yeah, I'd say 60 to 80 pounds.
So Chuck, I think, often would be on this wagon, grabbing these bales by himself, needing to lift them, move them, stack them all in one amount of time, like with keeping up with the pace of whoever's driving the tractor, whoever that was at that time. But by the time I got to that age, my dad, trying to make less work as possible, had bought a contraption where you would drop the bale onto the ground, and then someone would come through later with a different piece of equipment that picked it up and stacked it all by itself, which it didn't stack it as nicely as Chuck would have or someone else would have, but it got the job done, and one person can do it all by themselves if needed. And somehow this all fell in line. So
If you remember, Curt, I think Dad already had some of that stuff in place, like round baler, but I was a highly utilized area farm kid. Like, I would get hired at the area farms to throw their hay bales around. They try other kids, but I could outwork them all. I could outlast them. And I still do that. Like I said, in real estate, I outlast people. I just work a little bit extra effort.
It may actually be relevant to the farming part of the conversation and how capable you were. You're, by stature, much bigger than I am. How tall? How big are you at this point in your life, Chuck?
6'5", 230 pounds.
So he's 6'5", 230. I'm just shy of 6 feet, about 165. So we are different. Chuck got the bigger, stronger genes, I think. So maybe that's why he had to work so hard on the farm. They looked at me and thought, no, we'll do something different. Our upbringing, obviously very similar, leading into our adult lives. And I think as the years have gone by, you have a family and your real estate business, which we can talk a little bit more about later. Although we've always been kind of close, the last few years, I don't think we've talked nearly as much because you are so busy now and you have 4 kids and things going on that I don't know that brother Curt is as high on the list as all the other priorities in your life. And that's fine. I'm not complaining. But I think more recently we've decided, okay, we can now again spend more time together more easily as some things are changing. So just recently we went to Los Angeles, both Vikings fans. We went and watched the Minnesota Vikings play an NFL game at Los Angeles against the Rams. And this is something that we did last year as well. We went to Pittsburgh, very similar trip. And we've decided this is something we'll probably do every year as just a reason to do something as long as we can. And what did that experience, what have those two things done for you? Because I've been traveling a lot more lately, and you do a little bit, but go on those trips with me. What have you learned from that?
Oh, first of all, going with you, Curt, it's super relaxing because you're really good at planning 100% of the stuff. I just have to show up, which I like. Part of you said, busy. I have a busy life. Everybody's busy. But when somebody can actually plan it, that makes things so much easier. And then when we're together doing it, even that, we obviously used to do everything together. And now we sporadically do things together. I don't know. We just get along. There's not it's just you're easy to get along with in general. And you've had the fun experiences. Like if you haven't listened to podcast episode 1, that's George, super fun experiences and it's Curt's fun to be around when you travel. So it's just super fun going with him.
Okay. So that's good, I guess. Thank you. We're going to do it more often in the future. And that's something we made the decision. I think we both learn to make decisions, and both of those trips, actually, it was maybe 10 days before we flew out of Minneapolis that we decided, let's do this. And because of my flexible lifestyle and schedule, and you've got your own business and a family situation where you're able to get away from on short notice and everyone can make it through, that we were both able to do this. And I mentioned this in part, tying this all together as what we're going to talk about is I would like more people to put themselves in a position if they can. And I couldn't have done this a few years ago, probably. You probably couldn't have done it a few years ago. Now we can, and we're doing it. We're not just going to let the years pass and not spend time together. We can do it. We can definitely once a year do this for 3 days, no problem. And hopefully financially we're both in a situation where we can do it every year. And then we're just going to do it. And I think as we get older, we can look back on all the cities we will have gone to, and it'll be great. And if something were to happen to one of us where we couldn't do it, at least we would have done as many as we could. And I think that's a good thing. And I mentioned make a decision. So I made a decision to do this podcast actually maybe a year ago. It's taken me some time to pull together and I think I can put out a product that is worth listening to and is of a certain quality. And that's what I'm attempting to do. But where and how I've made a decision is because of another thing that Chuck and Michelle, our sister, kind of led me to, was traveling to Scottsdale, Arizona on a couple occasions so far to be part of the Core Strength Experience with Michael Bernoff, and Chuck's been working with him for a while, and he's done some other things. So since you have more experience with that, try to, when you talk to somebody about it, because I find it so difficult to tell someone what I've experienced and how much it's helped me, what do you tell people when you come back from one of these things? Okay,
well, what I'd like to share, Michael Bernoff, if you haven't heard from him, I'll share a little bit more about him now. I think it is sometimes hard to explain when you go to a conference. I tell people I'm going to a personal development or a business conference. They're like, oh, okay. If you go real in depth though, it's been super good. It's really helped my life. Like the first time I went there, I thought I was going there to work on my business. That's what you do when you have a business. I'm going to go to this conference and work on my business. But what's been really great about it, not only has my, business gotten better, talking about having time to go somewhere, go on trips. I've created leverage. I have a team. Now I have 6 people total on my team, so I don't have to do everything. When I first went there, Michelle just joined the team and just starting to get the idea of leverage. But so not only my business got better, I've learned how to have more fun, because there was that period where I was the hardworking farmer grinding away day after day with no breaks. And that's part of how I was raised. And, my relationship with my wife's gotten a lot better. Like it just keeps getting better and better. Like almost every day or every week, we get a little bit closer, a little more on the same wavelength. And, Melissa, my wife's going to the events now too, some of the events. So that helps. It just creates a similar mindset. And in my health, when I first went there, I was probably another 40 pounds or so heavier than I am now. And one of the first decisions I made after that was, let's start getting in shape. Let's eat a little bit better. Let's get in shape. And now that I'm in shape, I just feel better. So there's so many things I could talk about. It's helped every area of my life. Some people watch my Facebook videos and I talk about, faith and family and finance and fitness and fun. All those areas have gotten so much better just by, being in the Michael Bernoff community.
And we're both in that community. And maybe there's some other ways to accomplish these things. There might be other people doing something comparable, and that's possible. But for yours and mine experience, I would advise everyone who thinks they can get more out of their life, and they haven't done it yet. They haven't been able to figure out how. If you got involved with something related to Michael Bernoff, you would probably get those answers. The answers you don't even know if they exist, they would become more clear. So as an example, it was almost exactly a year ago, I was in the room that they hold the core strength experience, and I'd thought about a podcast, and I had done a little bit of work trying to make some progress, but it was sitting in that room where it became a 100%, I am going to do this, I must do this type of decision, something that I hadn't gotten to before. And that's just one of the things that I took away from this. This next core strength experience is coming up probably as this podcast is being released. Chuck will be there with a number of members of our family. I'm going to go to a wedding instead, but also I didn't want to go back until I did this. Like I would have felt like I haven't done what I needed to do until this podcast project came to fruition, and I was trying to fulfill my purpose and talk to people that I think have been influential in my life and other people that are just interesting. And I needed to do this, and it was because I've been through the core strength experience, the call to the action, and Chuck there's other things that you can do. And Chuck's done some of that. So you've even learned things probably beyond what I have that have sharpened your mind in a way to improve your own life.
One of my key values, probably the number one value that I hold top value in my life, is continued growth and learning. So the reason why I'm really big into Michael Bernoff and recommending him is I've been in real estate now 16 years. Before then, I've had real estate coaches. I've gone to real estate events, and they've always focused on call more people, knock on more doors, send more letters, and, that kind of stuff, which is good if you have a business, totally good. But the Michael Bernoff experience was all around. Like I said, you can focus on getting healthier, getting better with your finances, whatever it is, getting better in relationships in your business. It was all encompassing, and it's a community, and it's ongoing if you want to continue to participate with it. And I just liked it more than all the books I read, all the seminars I went to. It just felt like a great combination. And the good thing about it, he's not so huge that he's maybe similar, some people say, to Tony Robbins, but it's not so huge. Like thousands of people go to Tony Robbins' event. Well, if you go to Michael Bernoff, you actually can really get real close and intimate. You can be somebody who helps directly or in a group. Like you talked about the core strength. I'm a co-leader the last time and this time of a group where we're helping, 40, 50 people break out, and everybody gets involved, and you can have that one-on-one or small group time to really, really go deeper at what's going to help you in your life. Well, you can hide at a bigger event.
Yeah. And people that try to hide, I guess, hopefully that doesn't scare anyone away from possibly doing this. People that try to hide at core strength experience, and there's a few people that maybe find a way. You got to be really, really stubborn and kind of, I don't know what's going through someone's mind in that situation. I know I went there with an open mind, total open mind. I'm like, okay, I'm into this. Whatever happens, just kind of go with it. But it was a year or two before when you and Michelle went for the first time, and I heard about it, and I've even given a Toastmasters speech on the topic. The first time I heard Michael Bernoff speak, I didn't like the way he sounded at all. And that's possible. If you decide to make the decision to not like him, you probably might not like him. But the way he works, the way he has learned throughout his life, and this skill that he has to help people, no matter who you are or what you're going through, is really phenomenal. And I bought into it. And if this podcast means anything to anyone else at this moment, I can't say for sure, but I know it means a lot to me that I've taken the step to go and do something that I feel like I'm capable of doing, and more importantly, fulfilling my purpose. If this conversation, future conversations with anybody else, reaches somebody and kind of strikes a chord, then I feel like I'm doing what I am set out to do at this point in my life. And without going to the Michael Bernoff core strength experience or doing the call to action that kind of got me on the path to that, I don't know what I'd be doing right now. My guess is doing pretty much the same thing I've been doing the last few years, which is trying to get some new experiences, meeting new people, traveling, and that's fine. But I knew that I don't want to do that same thing forever, even though the same thing would involve meeting a bunch of different people and going to different places on different trips. That still would have been the same thing. And I didn't feel like I wanted to go get some other kind of job. Just nothing excited me as much as, okay, I have some broadcasting skills. I know people that are interesting. I know people that have helped me. Let me talk to these people, put them out there for anyone to listen to, see what happens, and go from there. So that's what I'm doing now. And without the core strength experience, and it sounds like it's a paid advertisement, but it's not. It's just, this has changed my life. It's changed Chuck's life maybe even more because he's been more involved. And I wanted to pass on this message early on in this podcasting project to let people know how I even got to this point, why I'm doing it. It is the main reason why. And Michael Bernoff, I reached out to him. I'm hopeful he will be on in a future episode. Right now is a bad time because, of course, he has the big event coming up this weekend and some other things going on. But yeah, this is a big thing for me and I know for Chuck.
Well, it causes you to level up. So each time I go out there, I'm going out there, and like you said, this will be out maybe around the same time I'm out there currently. Then I'm going out next month for Circle of Influence. And Curt mentioned one of his other programs or other things I'm doing: human interaction technology, Circle of Influence, superhuman interaction technology. Each time I go out there, I level up. I get new skills, and you stay in a community. And that's why it's so important. And now in today's, like, I can do it myself. You can work from home. You can do a podcast, obviously, from your house or go to meet somebody. But connecting with people and being in a community that thinks like-minded and has goals to help people and get you where you want to go, it's really important. You can do it on your own, but you're going to do it a lot better if you have a little bit of assistance.
So one of the first things that I did, this thing called Call to Action. It's a week-long phone call, like conference call type of thing that's led by Michael Bernoff. And one of the first things that came out of that for me is I decided I would join Toastmasters, kind of knowing that my public speaking's a little bit iffy, like if I'm standing in front of an audience, and I knew that that's something I could improve. If I'm going to make an impact on other people's lives at some point, which is what I'd like to do, I'd like to be someone positive. Being able to speak in front of people better, come across more soundly, come across as someone that's more like worth listening to because of my presentation, I thought was important. So I joined Toastmasters. I've been in a Toastmasters organization now for about a year and a half. Chuck, though, years ago, you joined it, maybe for other reasons, and I think you might have told me about it, and I went to some of your competitions to help video record you speak, but I never really had an interest in it. It's kind of weird how back then I thought, could I do this? Nah, I don't want to do this, whatever. But now I'm doing it, and it's a really big thing for me. So this can be also a commercial for Toastmasters, even though it's not a commercial for anything. It's just these are things that have helped us, I know. Talk about your Toastmasters experience, why you started, and how much has helped you in your business or personal life.
Someday, Curt, this will be so big where you will have sponsors, and one of them will be Toastmasters and Michael Bernoff, maybe, or something like that. So, but this is, totally not. I've been in Toastmasters. Actually, so I'm with Remax Results. My first real estate mentor was Mel Beaudry. He's still around doing business in the Elk River area of Minnesota. And he basically said, you should join Toastmasters. It helps you with your presentation skills. And I joined for a little bit, and I was super nervous and scared and like, okay, as soon as I can get out of this, I will. And then a couple years later, I decided, and this maybe I shared this, maybe not. I decided, you know what? I want to be a speaker. I want to be a motivational speaker. So I better join Toastmasters. And I did do obviously a tiny bit of speaking, and I'm meeting with people all the time. And now the way to explain it a couple ways, now the way Toastmaster really helps me, I do a lot of live videos. I don't prep for them. I'm not saying I'm perfect. In fact, Curt, one of the things they do at Toastmasters is they help and evaluate your speaking, and they have the counter. I'm watching my videos, counting my ahs. I'm like, I've got to get better at these ahs again. I used to be really good at not saying ahs. But you get habits to become a better speaker at Toastmasters. And the funny thing is, I'm guessing down the road in 2 to 3 years, I probably will be speaking more again. It was an idea, and I thought I had to go to Toastmasters, and now I've been working on it for several years. So speaking becomes fairly natural for me.
And for me, it was a big moment, and it was kind of a Michael Bernoff type of decision to put myself out there when I'd given maybe 5 or 6 speeches, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to post one of these onto Facebook, because instead of talking to the 15 people in the room, yes, I'm not speaking to a crowd of 500 people, or however, I think 800 or something, whatever, a fairly large number of people at least watched a second of that. I don't know how many people watched the whole 5 or 6 minutes, but that was a big, scary thing. I know in my first episode, I had George on. I talked about big, scary things in my life involving running with the bulls in Spain, and scuba diving at the Great Barrier Reef, and paddleboarding in the Puget Sound. These are all very scary things for me, and that's like a physical activity where I feel like my life's in danger possibly. But this is an entirely different scary thing where I am putting myself out there, and I think it was important for me to do that to make me more comfortable doing this right here, knowing that, okay, I'm going to tell people I have this podcast, and now people are going to listen to me, and they're going to find out all these things about me that I was very much okay with being anonymous. I liked the last 5 years of my life, 6 years of my life. I lived a fairly anonymous life. And it's kind of good just to no one know who I am, or not that many people. But then I realized as time's gone on, I feel like I probably can do more. I'm capable of more. And I made the decision, okay, I need to put myself out there, and whatever happens, happen. People can judge me however they want. They can think great things about me. They can think I'm crazy or dumb. It doesn't matter. It's just the point that those things, what people think about me, matters less and less. And I'm doing what I feel like I need to do to live my best possible life. And I think Toastmasters it all plays in part of it. So I have these speeches, put them on Facebook, and now people can see me. Now I'm doing this. And yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be doing public speaking in a real large scale at some point in my life. I would hope that I make enough impact on the smaller things I'm doing that maybe someone will want to ask me if someone listens to this, or episode 50 down the road, if I get to 50, that's my plan at least, and says, Curt, will you come speak to this group? I want to be prepared. I want to do a good job. So I kind of think about that, and that's why I'm doing these things. And Toastmasters, this podcast, and whatever else I come up with next is probably all kind of tying together into hopefully something greater. And if this is as far as it goes and I do something else, well, at least I've done this and I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, and basically everybody's got that extra level inside, and everybody can, make an impact. I think a lot of times people don't. Now, the very fact somebody's listening to this podcast, even if you're one of our family members who don't get into personal development or Toastmasters, you're actually, this is personal growth. You're listening to a conversation and learning from somebody. Toastmasters is not as scary as it sounded like. I was nervous at first because I didn't know the people, but it's such a good program just to work on your speaking, communication, leadership, evaluation skills, all that. And it's in like the most comfortable environment to do it. And that's what I love about it. And the group I'm in, we're super fun. We're kind of funny. So it's actually helped me with my humor, and it's a fun group to be around. So I enjoy going there as often as I can.
And depending on where you live, there's going to be a lot of different clubs that meet at different times, different places, probably not that far from where you live. And you could go check them out and sit in on a meeting, see, is this the group that I want to do this with? Or maybe I should try another one. And that's what I did. The second one I went to, a second different group, I thought, yeah, these are my types of people. I'm going to join this club. It meets twice a month, which fits my schedule pretty well. And it's definitely been a good thing. So yeah, if someone out there thinks that, yeah, maybe I should try Toastmasters, hopefully this conversation is the type of thing that gets you there, because I was hesitant for a long time and didn't really want to do it. And then finally I did it, and it's like, yeah, definitely, this is a good thing for me.
And if somebody thinks they just don't have a voice or don't have anything to share, that's a reason to join Toastmasters. Like, the fact that you're listening to this, or maybe you read a couple books here and there, you probably have something you want to share. You're just not as effective at it because you haven't tried something new. It's about getting out of your comfort zone sometimes too. And Toastmasters, core strength experience, those kind of things are definitely things that at first seemed out of the comfort zone, but once you do them, they level you up and make you feel better and help you get better results at whatever you're trying to achieve.
So Chuck, at the core strength experience, one of the things that you're able to do, and I've done one of these vision boards where it helps you come up with a purpose for your life. So the purpose that I came up with, and I haven't changed it yet because I still really like it. My purpose for my life, I say, is to learn, educate, and make lives better. And I'm following through with a process to try to continue to do that, or start to do that and continue to do that. your purpose, have you come up with a precise purpose for your life?
So a great question, Curt. For years and years, like I said, I read a lot of books and 10 different seminars that always talk about vision and purpose. I struggled so much to, what's my purpose? I like yours. Yours is super simple. And then about probably 2 years ago, I came up with one that basically I'd be somebody to do my best, give my all, to do my best to help open the doors for others to do their best as well in life. To have, it was super long too. So that was the basics of it, to have, better family life, faith, fitness, like those kind of things I talk about. And I haven't reviewed it as much lately because I saw the open the door part of that, open the door for other people to do that. We're doing that now. Like we're talking, having a conversation. Few people, thousands of people eventually listen to this, but few people that are listening now might have never heard this kind of stuff like, hey, make your life better. And that's a way to open the door. And I saw myself as somebody that could open the door. Now I'm starting to evolve again, Curt, that, I'm somebody who can actually, like you're doing now with the podcast, directly influence people. I don't necessarily have to open the door. I can help people right where they're at get to the next step. So I'm going to work on redoing my purpose, but in general, it's to help people, to help them grow, learn, and take the next step, kind of like yours.
Okay. And that's something I asked that question specifically because Chuck is very active on Facebook with doing Facebook Live videos. And honestly, I don't watch all of them, Chuck, because you do a lot of them.
I do too many. You'd never keep up.
No. Well, there was one day that I thought, okay, I haven't watched one of these in a while, and I went back and watched like 10 of them in a row, and they're all pretty good. You're funny. At least I think you're funny. I don't know if other people think you're funny. Hopefully they do. But I think you're funny, and you come across in a very comfortable and entertaining way. But what you're doing more recently, I've noticed, is you're like really trying to give out positive messages to try to help people in their day-to-day lives. Not so different than what we're talking about now. Why? Like, why are you using that platform, and what have you learned from it so far?
So as far as doing the platform to share a message, it's so easy to go on Facebook, and I have a couple thousand maybe friends on my personal page, and on our real estate page, we have about 5,000 people. So it's easy for me to turn it on and share. A few people will watch, or maybe 100 people or 200 people. Or if you like contests, boy, those get lots of views. My contest videos are my most popular, Curt, because people like giveaways.
Oh.
Do you watch those?
I have. Maybe I guess I'll have to do a contest here to get more people to listen.
Not to go too far off subject on that, I did the NFL picks one earlier this year, and it was about 1,700 views. And I know people watch and just comment quick, and they don't watch the whole thing necessarily. And I did a Timberwolves one yesterday. I thought, oh gosh, I'll get like 500. Who cares about the Timberwolves? I think it was up to like 1,300 already in a day. I'm like, wow, people like these contests. Even people are commenting on the Timberwolves. They want Timberwolves tickets. Okay, but I do mix in my videos. Part of it, just to explain a little bit of it. At first, as I started to do more videos lately, it was just to build the muscle of doing more videos and putting more content out there. As far as most of them were real estate related, if you go back 3 months ago. And then once I got in the habit of, okay, I can easily do real estate videos, whether it's touring a house or giving somebody a real estate specific tip, which I think people want. I thought, I want to really help people, going back to the purpose. And I've got a lot of tools to help people. So I want to share a little segment of something that I think can help people, whether you're referring to maybe a recent video. I do the Sweaty Chuck videos where I get done with a workout and then have a thought. I'm going to share people about working out and making fitness part of their routine. Or a couple videos ago, I just did the general talking about faith, family, finance, fun, and fitness. Just that's a whole concept that I'm always thinking about. And it's a way that I balance my life, and not necessarily balance like everything's perfectly balanced, but when I'm doing things in those 5 categories, I feel really, really good. And I think most people are out of balance or out of flow. They're missing something, and sometimes maybe you don't have a big family. So that's one thing you could be missing. But, you do a lot of fun things, Curt, right? You do whatever you need to do, maybe fitness wise, but some people are so out of balance in one of those areas, their life just doesn't work. And I thought, if I could share some tips on this, that's going to be helping people. That's going to be educating people, like you shared earlier on your purpose. And if 2 people or 5 people actually listen to these and do something, I feel really good. And maybe some days hundreds of people will in the future listen to it. And just to point out, a few months ago, I was visiting a past customer and I talked about the Sweaty Chuck videos where I do a workout and like, hey, I'm doing a workout and here's a quick thought. He said, oh, Chuck, I've been watching your videos all the time and I started working out. I was like, oh, somebody actually watched the videos and worked out. So somebody actually took action. So I feel good about that.
Yeah, that's what I find very interesting. One of the things about starting this project, and I did my first Facebook Live because of it, and anyone that commented or liked that video, I then invited them to join my Facebook podcast page for People I Know show. And now I'm trying to think through how I'll handle this in the future, because I don't think every time I put out a podcast, I'm going to do a Facebook Live. I could, but ultimately the people that want to join and listen will. And I'll find different ways to promote it without overwhelming people, because I don't want to come across as someone that's just trying to sell anything. I'm not really selling anything right now. This is just my idea. And I guess if I'm going to do it and put the time in, I'd like as many people to listen as possible, and then as many people to possibly learn one thing from it that might be put towards their life. So that's, again, why I'm doing this. And I think just kind of seeing the different people from my past slowly emerge, people that I don't even know that well necessarily, deciding to like my page. And maybe you're one of these people that is listening right now that I've met once or twice before and don't really know that well. And now you're listening to this. This is why I kept people as my friends on Facebook. I don't delete people because, we all are living different lives, but I feel like at some point in the future, there's going to be a reason to keep this person around. Maybe I can help them. Maybe they can help me. And that's why I do it. So I am looking forward to seeing how many names from my past emerge, and hopefully names I've never heard of too. If somehow people I've never met before end up listening, that would be super. But I know at this point in the very, very early stages, if I haven't met you, it's probably unlikely that you're listening. But as this is being recorded in October of 2018, who knows when someone will be listening to this? Someone that's not even born yet could be listening to this right now, Chuck, years from now.
That could happen. And for sure, our mom will listen to this.
Yes, mom will like this episode, as will dad. So another thing that I want to do with this podcast is look at the concept of being wrong. And I use that term. I understand that there may not be rights and wrong in many areas of life. But I do feel like for myself, I can look back on things that I've changed about myself and think, I was wrong about that. And I've made this change. I looked at something so differently, and now I look at something, the same thing, how I do now. And I feel like in most of those cases, probably, maybe every single one of them, that's probably why I've made that change. It's made my life better. And I want to, and the things that I've changed will come out as these podcasts go on, depending on who I talk to. But something, as I did with George in episode 1, and now with Chuck here, Big Brother Chuck in episode 2, is I want to learn from Chuck, and I want anyone that's listening to learn from Chuck something that he thinks that he was wrong about and that he's changed in his life. And so maybe someone else is currently wrong, quote unquote, wrong about this and could make an adjustment or something like that. So that's why I'm doing this. And so Chuck, what is something that you were wrong about?
There's so many things I've changed over the years or tweaked through, all my learning and growing. Like I said, number one thing is continued growth and learning. What I feel like lately I've made an adjustment on and was probably more recently wrong about and not perfect at is I'd say the judgment of others. Like, why do they do that? Talking, like if there's ever a time, put it this way, is there ever a time where there's somebody in your life, whether they're say close to you or maybe not even close to you? Like I have an ex-wife that's not really close, but that's somebody close to me, like somebody that you've talked badly about. Maybe it's just a conversation with your, like me and my current spouse. We've done that before about my ex-wife, for example. Or maybe it's a coworker that you constantly you can't stand how they do it, or you have a boss you can't stand because of how they do things, or another real estate agent, something like that, where somebody that you're involved with or sort of involved with, you have that conversation with another person, a third party, to vent about them. Like, why does this person do this? And why are they this way? And they're really irritating me, or just joking, making fun at a random person or somebody, maybe it's about their weight or some bad habit they have. And what I'm saying I'm wrong about is recently I learned I don't think any of that helps at all? Like, instead of looking at the flaws or the perceived flaws in somebody else, like, why not just cut it off? Say, you know what? They're doing the best they can. And like what I try to do on my end, I just bless them. And what do you mean bless them? Like, I'll just say, you know, bless that person. I hope they do better. And I just want to end this thought and move on to new thought. Meaning just change the mindset. I don't want to judge people anymore and critique them or pick on them. Not, you know, critique, like me and you can listen to this podcast, Curt, and we can critique how we could do things better. Not that kind of critique, but somebody who isn't asking for it, having that conversation behind their back. I think it's wrong to do that. And I made the adjustment, not perfect at it, to catch myself and not do that anymore. I just think it helps your life when you do that.
And that's something that I know I've definitely changed in recent years, where I recognize how wrong I would have been. And I don't know that I ever participated in that a lot, and maybe I still do a little, but I think it's common because probably, my guess is, as children, most of us, if you're in the public school system, there are popular kids, there are unpopular kids, and there's everyone with varying degrees in between. And I thought I was someone in between, but I ended up getting picked on a lot. A lot of people probably get picked on. And I think just trying to balance that as a child, as a kid, as a teenager, trying to maybe deflect some of those things that hurt and then hurt somebody else. I think that just ends up being a learned behavior that so many of us learn, and maybe different people have a different parental situation where parents are more or less contributing to that and making it worse, or maybe seeing that in their kid and getting them to not do that. And how that all plays out as we grow up is going to be different for everybody. But recognizing that is something that you've once learned for whatever reason, and you're doing it to whatever degree that you do it. And as Chuck said, that can't be helpful to either the person that you're talking about or to your mentality for yourself and how you're going to live your life. And I think that's a really good observation. Yeah.
And, you know, you're right. I think how you brought it up, I think it is learned, whether it was in school or with growing up. I'm not saying our parents picked on people, but, you know, they like to talk about people and they get to know, we grew up in a small town, they get to know people's business. And I don't mind putting my business out there. Like you said, putting yourself on Facebook. I don't mind doing that. I just don't really want to talk bad about people, whether they deserve it or not. I don't even want to talk bad if I'm, depending on who's in the public office. I don't want to talk bad about them. I mean, everybody's got their mission and purpose and they think it is right. If there's situations, I suppose, to bring it up and confront people, but just behind their back, that kind of stuff, I'm as much done with as I can be, other than that, you know, that behavior that it's so hard to shake that you've had for so many years. It's just something you work on. It's a continual growth and learning progress, but the better I get at it, the better I feel.
And something that's changed for me, and I don't know when exactly it happened. It might be because of some of the things I've learned working with Michael Bernoff. It's when I see someone that I could easily be critical of for whatever reason. And some people, maybe it's really easy sometimes because people are struggling with different things. I see people and I just want to help them. I'm like, what can I do to help this person? Am I the person? Am I the person or one of the people that they need to come through their life and say the right thing, do the right thing, push them in a direction no one's pushed them before, be encouraging when no one's been encouraging before? I don't know. And everyone, like people have done that for me in different ways before, probably for you. Everyone needs a different nudge or a push, and some people maybe really need a big push in some way. But what certainly cannot help anyone is like push them down and make it worse, like, you know, be critical. I know kids do that because kids aren't, you know, they're not smart enough yet to recognize all these different social dynamics. But as adults, and assuming mostly adults are listening to this, we don't need to do any of that anymore. Why can't we just be good to people, no matter how different they are, whatever challenges we think they have, and just look to think, what can I do to possibly either make sure this person's day is average or better because they cross paths with me, or possibly their life becomes better than it was because I did or said something that was encouraging.
Yeah, and that's a next step. Obviously, in some of the things I do, I look to, hey, that person needs my help. I look to do that. A lot of times now, like I mentioned, a step to take, some people can't take that step to go from, okay, I'm picking on people, to I'm the one to help them. But an intermediate step is catching yourself, being aware of it. And then, like I said, just bless them or release them or however you do it in your own way of doing it. Like, okay, I'm not talking about this anymore. Bless this situation. I have a customer that every time I talk to him, he's like, God bless you. And I was like, oh, that's nice. And you can just silently release what you're talking or thinking about them and move on. That might be your first step, being aware. And then number two, like just releasing it and just moving on from that thought or conversation. And then the next step I really want to take, Curt, is what you just mentioned, looking to help that person that's around me that may have a need. Like when I take that next step to do that even more consistently, that's when I'm really moving into my purpose, I feel.
Is there anything else you're wrong about, Chuck? If there isn't, that's okay.
There's tons of stuff I'm wrong about. Like I said, I'm always tweaking and changing things. The list could go on and on. I think for the listeners who've stuck it out and listened to this podcast, I think years and years ago, and you might even mention it when you're talking about Michael Bernoff, but years and years ago, I thought it was weird. Like if people went to conferences, or why would you try to improve yourself? I was out of school. I didn't want to read another book. And it probably took me 3 to 4 to 5 years till I went through my divorce to start it, to get into maybe personal or spiritual type of development and reading books and taking it a step further. Like, okay, I guess I need help. So years and years ago, I just thought I already knew everything. Like, think about this. I'm 41 now. And when I was like 23, 24, 25, 26, I thought I knew everything, but my life wasn't very good. Now my life's gotten way better, but I'm not even all the way there yet. I'm just in progress. And the amazing thing is, I think this to be true. I think a lot of people were like me and might currently be like that now. Like when I was 23, 24, 25, I thought I knew everything. And if you're in that spot, you're basically like screwed, or you're not going to do very well. So what I was wrong, another thing I was wrong about is thinking I knew everything at one point. How can you know everything when you're that age?
And that's why I think I do this being wrong segment, because the more I've learned and the more things I've changed about myself, like recognizing that I don't think this anymore, I want to do this totally different, the more I realize I don't know anything. Even the things that I think I know, every single thing that I think I know about my life, my existence and reality is at risk of being wrong, because there are big things that I've already decided are wrong. So I think just that general awareness makes me very much realize that I might not know anything. So I'm going to keep on trying to learn more, trying to look for truths, trying to learn right from wrong. Where truth is available and right and wrong are available, I really want to get those right. And in other areas where it's very subjective, I want to try to take the best path, the one that makes my life more fulfilling, that helps other people live a better, happier life. And that's just kind of where I'm moving towards. And so far, so good. But years from now, who knows what I'd even look at, what I think about this conversation that we're having right now.
Yeah. And real quick on that, I mentioned before, my number one value is continued growth and learning. And my number two value is health and fitness right now. Number three is empowering communication. I want what I speak and say and do in my action to actually empower you, to kind of piggyback off the last topic, empower people around me to take a little more action, have a better life. And you have to, you meaning me, I have to be the change. I think like Gandhi quoted this. I have to be the change I want to see in the world. So I have to do it myself. I can't really tell people to do it, even though we're telling people to do it now. But believe this, like I'm working on this, and Curt is 100% right. The more I learn, the less I know. And what I mean by that is the more I learn, I begin to realize that I really didn't know that much before. And you're right. I'm going to be subject to change because I want to be better and be a better person for the people around me. I mean, part of the reason I work out so much, Curt, is so my kids coming up see that. And Chase works out a lot. Even Lucas, last night, he got home from school and like, hey, I'm going to go shoot baskets. Like they see me doing the work. So I'm giving them permission to do the work too. So that's a big thing. I want to show people. I don't want to tell my kids. I don't want to be the fat parent. And I apologize if you're, a little overweight and you have kids playing sports. I don't want to be that person yelling at my kid to do better. I want to be the person who's in such good shape. The kid's like, dang, my dad's in good shape. I got to want to keep up with him. So that's just me. That's how I'm living my life.
And I have 6 nieces and nephews. 4 of them are Chuck's kids. And I see just quality improvements in their life. And it's either because of how you're raising them, or like you've taken them to like the Michael Bernoff core strength experience. So whatever combination of things that you're doing, like you mentioned your son Chase, and I guess since you mentioned his name specifically, I will too, is I just seen from 6 or 7 years ago to now, he's such a good young man. Like, he's so awesome, as are all my nieces and nephews. But just as an example, I don't know where the shift changed or where you notice it, and you don't even need to talk about it now, but you're doing something right.
I'm pretty sure a lot of that's Michael Bernoff. And the good thing about that kid is he can notice any incongruencies and myself and my wife, and he can point it out. That's the great thing about doing that kind of thing with your family, and the fact that program, Michael Bernoff Course Strength, like, if I'm off, he can catch me on it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got to make that shift back, because we're not perfect. Everybody falls off a little bit or gets off track. But when you have people around you that can hold you accountable and you want to be accountable, it's so good. Like, it's just amazing to have to have a family that's going and doing this together.
Last thing, Chuck, before we wrap this up, you have an opportunity to, whatever your business, your personal, whatever things that you specifically want to let the world know about, here's an opportunity to, especially if people like the conversation and want to get to know Chuck Carstensen in person in some way with something else he's involved in. What are the things that you are doing now that you think someone else could reach out to you and get involved as well?
Well, one, I would recommend you to search out Michael Bernoff. Maybe Curt can share a link somewhere and get involved there. We'd easily connect in that community. Two, if you're in the Minnesota, Twin Cities, St. Cloud, North Metro, South Metro area, my real estate team, if you're buying, selling home, have home questions, reach out to us, Carstensen team on Facebook, and you can find us there. Also, I post, whether it's real estate videos or a couple other videos that Curt mentioned, like the personal helping, self-help, personal development, motivational videos, whatever you want to call them. I'm posting them, once or maybe twice a week to that page. And that's a way to connect. So connect with me on Facebook, Chuck Carstensen or Carstensen team. And yeah, let's connect and continue and grow together and learn from each other. I'd love to connect with you.
Thank you, Chuck. And maybe if I meet my goal is to do this every week, or basically every week, which is reasonable, for a year, put out a different podcast episode. I think you would be a good person to revisit what we've accomplished individually and some of the things that we've changed, and maybe get you back on here in the future. But thank you for taking the time today. And now forever and ever and ever, we'll have this conversation between ourselves. So if for no other reason then to do that, I think people should have record conversations with the people they care about, because I think it's probably a pretty good memory to hold on to at some point in one or both of our futures.
And I like what you just said, keeping us accountable. Like, if we do this show in 6 months or a year from now, it'll be amazing to see where we're at. Because I believe our trajectory is really high, and we're going to make some massive shifts. And we're going to look back at a year from now and be like, wow, we came this far. It'll be great. It'll be exciting.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you, Curt.
Check today's episode's show notes for links to be in contact or to learn more about Chuck Carstensen or the Carstensen Team Remax results. Also, there's a link there that will get you connected to more information about Michael Bernoff and what he does. Thank you for showing your support of this podcast by listening. If you'd like to be even more supportive, please consider leaving a positive review and also rating People I Know Show at Apple Podcasts or whichever website or app you use to listen to the program. Also, you can leave a review on the People I Know Show Facebook page, or you can email me directly at peopleiknowshow@gmail.com. I'd be happy to hear from you and would be very willing to reach back if you have any questions or there's anything else I can help you with, or possibly let's consider a way that you can contribute to this podcast in the future.